There's a tension between that of, oh, I got to work for free to change the world. And that's not, the poverty gospel is not real. That playbook is long gone. And we're going to live in a world to where we work for success to pour out significance. Hey, welcome back, everyone, to the Success and Significance Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Newman, and I appreciate you coming along as we dive into how to be successful to pour out significance. And on today's episode, what we're going to be talking about is there's a tension and there's this tug of war that maybe you felt, or I know that I have felt, and I have been trying to figure out this tension for quite some time. And it's honestly been a 15-year journey for me as I was introduced to trying to become successful, but also to pour out significance. And so the tension that we're talking about is those two words. And a lot of the times you don't see those two words together. A lot of people believe that you have to live for success first and fight for it, which all of that's true. And then at the very end that you pour out significance. And I believe in a world to where that you can live for success and significance at the same time, where you can make a boatload of money, you can be successful, because remember, success is what you say about yourself, and you determine what success is, and significance is what the world says about you. And I believe in a world that those two can exist, and where that idea even came from, that this seed, this tension has been planted for the last 15 years, as I found myself where before I was in the for-profit world for about 15 years, running a couple businesses. And then I found myself in the nonprofit industry. And there was this tension of when I first got introduced to this nonprofit world, that there were certain ways that you have to do things. You have to make sure that you don't spend this much on overhead, or that the CEO can't make XYZ money, or you'll be considered a hypocrite, and all of this tension as I got thrusted into this nonprofit world. And I was sitting there, I'm like, why? Like, I felt like a fish in captivity, to tell you the truth. Like I was a fish out in the ocean. I had this huge ocean from an entrepreneurial standpoint, to where I'm learning how to run businesses. I'm learning to do whatever it takes, as long as it's not illegal. And I was trying to figure out how to do this broad thing of business. But yet when I got put into this nonprofit world, that I felt like I was a fish in captivity, and I'm swimming around and I'm talking to all these people that are running nonprofits, and they're telling me how broke they are. Church planners telling me how broke that they are, and that I'm sitting there. I'm like, why do you do it that way? Don't you know that there's a whole nother world out there? What's the show, like Finding Nemo or something like that, right? I got put into a fishbowl. And then now this tension of like all these people were telling me what I can and cannot do in the nonprofit world. Now hear me, for the people that are listening, I'm not saying that the nonprofit leaders should make all of this money and not anything go back to the mission. So I don't want you to hear that. And some of you all listening will probably still hear that, which is okay. But the tension that I'm talking about, I'm like, why does it have to be that way? So I was frustrated. And within the first year or so, I would say that I had an opportunity to meet with a very, very successful businessman, and we met for breakfast, and I sat across from this guy, and he honestly just poured his heart out to me. I told him that I came from the for-profit world, that I want to change the lives of kids fighting cancer. I want to be significant in this world. And he sat there, and like some tears started to come to his eyes, and he told me that I had something figured out. Now, hear me, the whole time that I'm talking to this guy, I feel lost as can be. I was like, man, I really got this guy fooled. But the words that he said after, he said, young man, he said, I am super successful. I have enough family money that I will leave for generation to generation to generation. I think he honestly was like 3 to 4 generations to come. And he had made enough money, and he had chased success. He had found success. But the one thing that he did not do was to pour out significance. And I asked him, I was like, well, what do you mean? He's like, well, to tell you the truth, he feels that he's let some of his kids down by the way that he's just chased success, which there are times in business where you have to put your effort in. There's even times with me in this nonprofit world that I've found myself in that I work 60, 70 hours a week. So this is not like once you get it all figured out, you won't be working those long hours. But he just said that he had made a bunch of mistakes where his bank account was flourishing, but he felt empty inside. And so if you're listening to this podcast and you're an entrepreneur or you're a church planner or you are somebody that is chasing success relentlessly and you feel empty inside, I just want you to take a second and pause, because there is power in the pause. And right now, if you're hearing my voice, that there is still time to where, yes, continue to charge hard and to build success, but make sure that you focus on pouring out significance. And as I stepped up from the breakfast table with this guy, I walked away and finally I could put my finger on the tension that I had been feeling for the last year of like, why does it have to be that way? Why does it have to be the way to where there's an old playbook? Why can't there be a new playbook to do business in general? Now, there are certain things in business that we do have to do. You got to manage your P&L reports. You got to build budgets. You have to do certain stuff, but that's not where it stops, or that's not where it ends. And I think for us, as we spend a little bit more time together, I just want to unpack a couple things. And just to be totally transparent with you, being vulnerable is super hard. And so I'm going to let you guys into some of the stuff that I struggle with being a leader of a nonprofit organization. And so when you see me at the supermarket or you see me in the airport, you're going to know. And so for me, I would rather be vulnerable with you all to just give you some real life examples of what I have to deal with. And you may be dealing with some of this stuff too. So I hope it relates. And man, to be totally honest, Rock Solid Foundation's been around for about 15 years. I worked for free for the organization for 4 years. And then just recently, my wife and I, just a couple weeks ago, we took our very first vacation together. And it was super great. We went to Miami. We had a real fun time. But while I was there, I asked my wife not to take photos of me in Miami. When I'm on the beach sipping my pina colada and just having a good time, I asked my wife not to take photos and not to post them on social media. And she asked me why. And I proceeded to tell her, I said, well, at the end of the day, like, I want to make sure that people think that I'm using their money correctly, which we are, by the way, at Rock Solid. But that's that tension. And I want you to know, even as being a nonprofit leader, that I even think about the type of car that I drive. And that's just the nature of the beast of what I have to do. But the part of what I'm trying to prove is that there is a tension to where I'm like, no, it does not have to be that way. So how do we unpack and how do we try our best to make sure that those two words can exist together? And it can be foolish. You're like, oh, who cares what people think? Well, guess what I do at the end of the day, because the nonprofit industry is a perception-driven business. I knew that signing up for it. But I think there are certain stigmas in that industry that we're going to break. So if you're sitting here and you're hearing me and you're just about to graduate from college, and you're looking at jobs potentially posting and you're like, well, man, I really want to go. I know what my parents said. I know what colleges have told me. I know what guidance counselors have told me my whole life, that I need to go do this. I need to go get a college degree. I need to go make money and then start my family and this and this and this, right? So you can almost, like, right when you graduate high school, people are like, where are you going to go to college? Right when you graduate from college, they're like, oh, what job are you going to get? Right when you get a job, when are you going to get married? And then when you're going to get married, guess what? When you're going to have kids, right? So it's all these stigmas and all these tensions to what we get put in our brains from almost childbirth. I think that there is another world that we're going to continue to explore of significance. So you know the tension of success for me. And so if you're listening to this, like, and you have to choose between a Fortune 500 job or go change the world, that's the tension that I'm talking about. And what if there was both? And so we'll continue to unpack that tension, but it's real. It's very, very real for me. And I know that there's some people out there listening that are struggling with the same thing. And honestly, a couple of the ways that I deal with it is that I would highly encourage you to find a mentor. I have a couple mentors, and mentors are not always there forever. I've had mentors that they come in for a season and then they're gone. I also have some mentors that have been with me for 15 years. So sometimes finding a mentor can be a little challenging. It can be a little awkward. This is how I would encourage you to do it. Call somebody that you respect, that's successful in business, or someone that is a couple pages in front of you. And hear me, they don't have to have the whole book written, but you do, as a mentor, you want someone that is a couple pages ahead of you in life, chasing success, that they will be able to help guide you along the way. So finding a mentor, ask them for coffee, ask them for wisdom. And I'll quote this a lot from Proverbs 3:8, seek wisdom above all else. Ask them to help you, ask them for wisdom. And then if you both connect, ask them to meet once a month and see what happens. And we'll dive a little bit deeper in like how to have a mentor, what to ask your mentor, all of that stuff. But just from a surface side, a couple ways I deal with the tension is I have a couple mentors that help me along the way. Another way that I do is I journal a whole lot. You will never see me without a journal. Even now, if you're watching this podcast, I have a journal in front of me, and I always write the things out in my head. And so with struggling with the tension, chasing success, or whatever it is that you're dealing with, I would encourage you to get a journal and to write it down. I always write a journal. You'll never see me without a journal, and to write the thought down. And then from there, once you write it down, the healing starts to happen, the success, the tension starts to leave. And then honestly, after you write it down, collect your thoughts around whatever it is that you're struggling with. And then from there, I would also encourage you just to start talking to people about whatever it is, the challenge that you're dealing with. And one of the other things that I am able to do, like to help navigate the tension, either you're dealing with the tension in business or you're dealing with the tension in any aspect of your life, is that I honestly, every decision that I make, I have a very strong set of values that helps me balance that tension. And they help guide the direction of my life. Because if you have a certain set of values in your life, then if you are listening and you're about to take that job promotion, but that job promotion is going to it's going to give you 20 extra hours a week, and you're not going to be able to see your kids, then maybe if you have a strong set of values, that those values will help you make the decision. And so in the next couple of episodes, I teased it in the episode before that, but these 3 questions that I will go back to constantly to help me navigate this tension of success and significance are these 3 simple questions. Who am I? Where am I going? And what do I believe? Because if we can get those 3 questions answered, then that will help lead the me to then we can lead the we, the people that we're called to love and serve. Hey, as always, like and subscribe this podcast, share it with your friends so that more people can learn how to live a life full of success, to pour out significance. Make sure you follow us on social media to get all the latest and greatest content out there. I appreciate you, and we'll see you soon.